Hi students, today I am going to teach you Great Expectations. As we all know that it is a novel by a great writer Charles Dickens, and this novel Great Expectations first appeared in All the Year Round 1860-61. This first appeared in this, and then in the later years was published in a book form. Fine. Now, we have to know that what is this story about? This novel is basically a story which revolves around the development of the character known as Philip Pirrip, commonly known as Pip. Pip is a very common character, very known name. Who is Pip? He is a village boy brought up by his sister, the wife of a very gentle, of a very humorous, kind blacksmith known as Joe Gargery. Who was he, students? He was the husband of his sister, who was a very gentle, humorous blacksmith. Now, he is also introduced to the house of Miss Havisham. He was introduced to the house of Miss Havisham. She was a lady who was very much crazy. She was very much upset by the desertion of her lover and on her bridal night. And because this happened, he had that spirit of revenge all the time. And that is why, because of that avenge and revenge, she brought up the girl Estella, who was very beautiful. And she was using that beauty, that beautiful face of Estella as a means of torturing men and to avenge and to revenge people, because she had faced such thing from her husband on the very first night, on the very first bridal night. So what happens that यहाँ पे मैं लिख देता हूँ Estella. Now see what happens. Pip falls in love with Estella. He falls in love with Estella and aspires to become a gentleman. Money and a lot of expectations of more wealth start pouring him in his mind, and from a very mysterious source. And what is that mysterious source? He believes to be Miss Havisham. He goes to London, and in his new mode of life that was in London, mainly he abandons the devoted Joe Gargery. Now what happens? Misfortunes come upon him, and his unknown benefactor proves to be an escaped convict. Again, I am repeating this sentence. His unknown benefactor proves to be an escaped convict. Kaisa convict? Escaped. And what was the name of that escaped convict, students? Abel Magwitch. Abel Magwitch. He was an escaped convict. And Abel Magwitch, as a boy, had rendered a service. His great expectations fade away, and he is penniless. So what happens? Estella marries his sulky enemy, Bentley Drummle. She marries this person by whom she is cruelly and very much ill-treated. Now, because he was facing a lot of adversity, who? Pip. So we can say that learnt by adversity, Pip returns to Joe Gargery and is finally reunited to Estella, who has also learnt her lesson by being mistreated, misbehaved by Bentley Drummle. And other notable characters in this book are Joe's uncle, who is the impudent old impostor Pumblechook. Then Jaggers, the skillful old belly lawyer, and his good-hearted clerk Wemmick, Wemmick. And yes, how can we forget Pip's friend? And who is Pip's friend in London? Herbert Pocket. Fine. So because in the initial, as I told you, that we will be discussing in brief, so that in a very initial 2 to 5 to 7 minutes, you may understand that what is the crux of this novel. Fine. Now what happens that there is a topic, means while we study this novel, a very important thing which we cannot miss is to discuss about the title of this novel, because things are interconnected when we teach. And the question is the title of Great Expectations. Fine. So now, Great Expectations, we are discussing the title. So now related, what I have told you and what more I am going to tell you about your exam. Great Expectation is a story of an ill-treated orphan's high ambitions and ill-regulated aspirations. This common boy who was working as an apprentice to that poor blacksmith, who has never seen the face of that aristocratic society. Suddenly what happens that he goes to London to be brought up as a gentleman, as a kind man, as a man of manners. And of course, a very rough child comes in contact of a self-possessed, beautiful young Estella and her guardian, Miss Havisham, which I have already discussed few minutes before. And how the entire thing's turned. A fool's paradise does not remain merely a wild goose chase, but is changed into a paradise of reality. So what happens? That Pip receives the coldness, the contempt, and the ice from Estella. Yet he cherishes, in spite of that, he dreams, he cherishes deep love for her. And there is a word known as obsession. He was very much obsessed. He had a great obsession by the idea of possessing Estella. And this is the first great expectation. अब title से relate करिएगा. He was very much obsessed by the idea of possessing Estella. So that obsession, that expectation, that great expectation that springs up in Pip's heart and haunts his childlike imagination. So now understand that how this title would have come. Great expectation. He was expecting. He had a latent desire in his heart for Estella. So this expectation, and that too great expectation. So at one period of his life, he feels sure of his success. And he feels that he's very, very close to his goal. And that he feels that his dreams seem to take a concrete shape, a particular area. He feels that he is trying to, or he is on the verge of fulfillment, and on his great expectations on that verge of materialism. And Jaggers, yes. Jaggers. Who is Jaggers? I told you. the lawyer, he comes and announces the great expectation of Pip. So here also see the expectation. Everybody has some great expectation or the other. So the lawyer who comes and announces the great expectation of Pip, and this person tells Pip what he has been aspiring for all the long period of time. His benefactor wishes that he be immediately removed from his present sphere of life and from this place, and he brought up as a gentleman, as a young fellow of great expectation. Hence, we can say that Pip feels that he is for London and that greatness which he should achieve. Fine. Now, you will have a lot of things to understand as far as the title is concerned. Pip जो है, Pip, he understands that Miss Havisham is his secret benefactor. Miss Havisham is his secret, ऐसा पिप फील करता है फॉर मिस हैविशम. And he is also very much confident that Miss Havisham wants to bring him up as a gentleman only to marry Estella to him. इस वजह से कि वो एस्टेला से शादी कर पाए, in order that he may marry Estella to him. And when Miss Havisham urges upon him to love Estella in all cases, he further confirms his conviction and belief that he is meant for Estella, and Estella is adopted by Miss Havisham only to be given to him. So again see here, कितना expectation है, कितना great expectation है from each other. And under the influence of these great expectations, Pip begins to despise even the angel like Joe. इसी great expectation के वजह से he has begun to despise even the angel like person Joe, who is the husband of his sister, and the circumstances of mystery which surround the great expectations make it possible to manipulate their meaning, and that too in a very very ambiguous manner, in a very absurd manner. And Pip feels sure that the source of his great expectation is Miss Havisham. When he comes to know that his real benefactor is not Miss Havisham but a convict, and who is that convict? I had told you in the starting, Abel Magwitch. जब उसको पता चलता है कि उसका रियल बेनिफैक्टर जो है वो मिस हैविशम नहीं है बल्कि एक कॉन्विक्ट है जिसका नाम है एबल मैगविच, his great expectations break into pieces. That mirage is broken, the glass is broken, and the house of cards जो ताश का पत्ता उसने खड़ा किया था, the house of cards he builds tumbles down in a moment. एक झटके में वो गिर जाता है. And in this way, the great expectations of Pip, comes out, eases out in a very pathetic manner. And his greatest expectation is to possess Estella. His greatest hope is his love for her. But Estella only proves to be a heartbreaker to none other but Pip. उसने नॉवेल में कन्फेस भी किया है. Pip himself has confessed that the nature of my relations with her, बहुत लंबा इसका एक quotation है which I am not able to remember, but he has confessed that love and that feeling, that distraction which was in his life due to Estella. And उसने ये भी कहा है that Estella made use of Pip to tease other admirers, and she turned the very familiarity between herself and Pip to the account of putting a constant slight on my devotion to her. So many a times he was not very happy because of the nature of Estella, but in spite of that, he had great expectations, he had great love for her. And Estella becomes the part of his existence. He becomes a part of his structure. She becomes the part of himself. Means ki she is actually been an integral part of his human self. And she has been in every line he has ever read since he first met her as a very common boy. And she has been in every prospect, on the sails, on the ships, on the marshes, in the cloud, in the rain, in the light, in the darkness, in the wind, in the woods, in the sea, in the streets. And so we can say that she has always been the great embodiment of every fancy, every imagination, every feeling, whatever has ever become acquainted with. Such was Estella, such was her personality, such a person, such a girl. It was very shocking to note that that shocks Pip's heart by rejecting his offer of marriage and love. So एक word है the night of romance. This night, Knight. The night of romance falls a poor victim to disappointment. And to Pip's surprise, he comes to know that his love for Estella was nothing more but only a self-deception, khud ka dhoka, and that his great expectation were but nothing else but a dream illusion. It was an illusion. It was a mirror which was broken. And to give up Estella would be to give up the very meaning of his life. Estella को छोड़ देना मतलब अपनी जिंदगी का साथ छोड़ देना. But with the return of Magwitch, with the return of Magwitch, क्या हुआ students? The entire structure of Pip's expectations is destroyed. And the terrible revelation shatters all his hopes, all his dreams, and he discovers that Estella, who is supposed to be the star of his great expectations and gentility, is really the daughter of Magwitch. And in this way, his second great expectation also fizzles out. So, आपने देखा कि how many times this word great expectation is weaved, carved, and it is the main, pulse, feel of the entire novel, the great expectations. So, you have to understand, students, कि किस प्रकार से ये title important है if ever you have to explain anywhere in your answers or to take some help from this title or from this question. Fine. Now, देखिए एक very important point which I always tell students, which makes you write your answers well, that is known as plot construction. Plot construction plays a major role in making the novel great or simple or ambiguous or hit or whatever it is. So I would write here plot construction. And if we see about this plot construction, generally if we see चार्ल्स डिकेंस, तो इनके प्लॉट्स क्या होते हैं स्टूडेंट्स? इनके प्लॉट्स जो होते हैं दे आर वीक, लूज एंड इनऑर्गेनिक. वीक, लूज, ये बात हो रही है डिकेंस की. डिकेंस प्लॉट्स आर वीक, लूज एंड इनऑर्गेनिक generally, and they also do not maintain the unity of action. Is not maintained, and that too coherently. And they also contained detached episodes. They contain detached episodes, and even they are known for many irrelevant characters, and they also contain something of everything, and that is why are very much diffuse. Here I can say that Charles Dickens too might have felt this weakness of his own and must have tried to improve the art of his plot construction as far as David Copperfield is concerned, and as well as Great Expectation is concerned. So because he knew about his weakness, we are pretty sure that he has tried a lot in giving his David Copperfield as well as Great Expectation in a better perspective. Fine. Now, we can say that there are many key passages in Great Expectations, and these key passages are in those passages, visual scenes at the very beginning, when this main character Pip on the Christmas Eve runs out to take the pork pie. He runs out to take the cheese, to take the brandy to the convict who were shivering on the marshes. If I am not wrong, Christmas was in the early novels a time celebrated by Dickens with almost intolerable joviality. It is not accidental that in this story, Christmas is associated with fear, and that Pip finds it a very laborious task to stir the pudding for an hour before going out to his terrible meeting with the convict who kept as a companion a young man who had a secret way of getting at a boy and at his heart and at his lover. So, this plot construction in Great Expectation is superb. If I talk about Great Expectation, it is superb. And it reveals, because it is superb, it is also revealing Dickens' mastery of narrative. Mastery of narrative. Because it is superb, so it is revealing the mastery of narrative, It is revealing the mastery of description as well as mastery of dialogues, undoubtedly. So here he did not let his characters display for the sake of display, as he was very often he used to do it. And David Copperfield had been a straightforward history of childhood and young manhood with a very loosely plot, and this time the plot is fundamental. यहाँ पे जो plot है वो fundamental है. It is dramatic. It is full of adventures and humorous situations. And Great Expectations has basically known for a very superb beginning. जो मैंने यहाँ पे लिखा भी देखिए, very superb beginning. No other novel of Dickens has such a charming and such a dramatic exposition as this novel has. Many critics have also written many different things about the peculiarity about this great novel. Fine. So what we can say is that the chief merit of the plot of Great Expectations is its inevitability. Inevitability. Every stage is related to the other. Every stage, students, is related to the other. Each incident has its own significance. And how dexterously, how with so much of skill, how skillfully the novelist is letting his readers know that Estella's mother has been a murderess and that Magwitch is her father, which, yes, a great deal of suspense, a great deal of curiosity, which makes the novel read like a detective tale, and never for a moment does the interest of the reader loses. Characters are very well fitting. Dickens has never done anything, not even in Copperfield also. So, real as Pip with his fears, so real is Pip with his hopes, with his human weakness, with his love, with his meanness, with his bearing up against misfortunes. And he has given Estella little space and some unattractive points so that some do not like her, but others see in her at least the possibility of a heroine, and far more fascinating than any of the Dickens, you can say, other characters. So, when a reader opens this novel Great Expectations, easily and very irresistibly, in a paragraph, a line or a word, Dickens cast his spell, अपना cast magic पैदा कर देता है उस reader पे. And you won't believe, the reader very willingly sinks back, पीछे हो जाता है, and where he sinks back on the strong wings of imagination, and that imagination carries wherever he wishes. And then he is jolted, he is banged, and in a very creative fancy, falling back, dragging back with sentiments, with passion, with entertainment, and that too to his full satisfaction. So, these were the important points about the Great Expectations, about the title, about the plot construction, where I've tried to inculcate many things for your nurturing of this title of this novel. In the next lecture, we will move on upon the themes of the great expectations, which will also fulfill your need for the variety of things which are asked in the examinations. Thank you, students.